Now to put the finishing touches on the dessert for Susan's party this afternoon.
Number 1. Cherry Winks. Cherry Winks. These cookies were a little crunchy, a little chewy, and packed with cherries and nuts. The name alone always made me smile as a kid, and the cookies were such a hit at bake sales and church picnics. My mom would make them for us on rainy afternoons, and I always felt like a little chef in the kitchen, helping her roll the dough into cornflake crumbs before pressing a cherry into the center. The result? A sweet, crunchy cookie that was perfect with a cold glass of milk. There was something so satisfying about the mix of textures, the crispy cornflake coating, the soft center, and the burst of cherry in every bite. And the best part? We still make these today. It's become a family tradition, and every time I whip up a batch, it takes me right back to those cozy afternoons in the kitchen. Cherry Winks definitely deserve a comeback, don't you think? Number 2. Tomato Soup Cake. This one always gets a raised eyebrow. Tomato soup cake? Yep, you heard that right. Now, before you wrinkle your nose, let me explain. The soup gave the cake an incredible moisture, and you didn't really taste the tomato, I promise. It was more like a spiced cake, kind of like carrot cake's quirky cousin. I first tried this cake at a neighbor's birthday party, and I was skeptical at first, but one bite, and I understood the appeal. It had a cinnamon and clove warmth that felt like fall in cake form. It's one of those recipes that sounds like it shouldn't work, but totally does. It was perfect with a little cream cheese frosting, and it was fun to tell people, hey, guess what's in this? Their reactions were always priceless. Number 3. Ambrosia with sour cream. Oh man, you couldn't go to a potluck without seeing a big bowl of ambrosia on the table. Now, before you come at me in the comments, Ambrosia's still around, right? But here's the twist. The 70s version had sour cream mixed in, not whipped cream. And trust me, it made all the difference. There was something about that sweet, tangy combination with mandarin oranges, pineapples, coconut, and marshmallows that just hit different. I remember my grandma would whip this up for every holiday. The sour cream added a creaminess that balanced all the sweetness. We'd pile it onto our plates as if it was as essential as the turkey at Thanksgiving. It wasn't just a dessert, it was the taste of the holidays. I can still picture my little plate filled with ham, potatoes, and, of course, a giant scoop of ambrosia sitting right there like the crown jewel. Number 4. Sour cream and raisin pie. Speaking of sour cream, here's another one that's been lost to time. Sour cream and raisin pie. Yeah, I know, raisins in a pie might sound a little weird if you didn't grow up with it. But let me tell you, this was a slice of creamy, tangy heaven. The raisins got all plump and juicy, and when you mix that with the richness of the sour cream custard and a flaky pie crust, oh, it was magic. This pie is actually the state pie of Iowa, and it's a Midwest treasure. If you've ever been to a small-town Iowa diner or church potluck, chances are you've seen this pie sitting proudly among the desserts. My aunt, who lived in Iowa, baked this pie every Easter, and it became a family tradition. She'd give me a slice, I'd sit there savoring every bite, wondering why no one outside of our family, or Iowa for that matter, seemed to know about it. Looking back, I guess this pie was a little too unique for the masses, but in Iowa, it's beloved. For those of us who had it, it was unforgettable. A perfect blend of sweet, tangy, and creamy wrapped in a flaky crust and cherished memories. Number 5. Chocolate fondue. Oh, I can't talk about 1970s desserts without mentioning chocolate fondue. There was something so sophisticated and fun about dipping strawberries, marshmallows, and little cubes of pound cake into a pot of warm, melted chocolate. It felt like you were at the height of luxury. We had a fondue set at home, and I remember my parents bringing it out for special occasions. The whole family would gather around the table, skewers in hand, and dip away. Sometimes we'd mix things up and dip cookies or even pineapple. Looking back, it's surprising how something as simple as melted chocolate could feel so fancy. Hey there! If you're enjoying this trip down memory lane and want to relive more forgotten favorites, please hit that subscribe button. Seriously, I need your help. Growing this channel is hard, guys. Help me keep the good times rolling. And while you're at it, drop a comment with your favorite 1970s desserts. Let's keep this nostalgia train going together. Number 6. Hot milk cake. This cake was deceptively simple, but it was one of those desserts that could steal the show. Hot milk cake had this dense, moist texture that melted in your mouth, and it didn't need any fancy frosting to shine, just a dusting of powdered sugar. I remember my grandma making this for no occasion in particular, which made it even more special. She'd cut me a slice while it was still warm, and I'd devour it with a scoop of vanilla ice cream. It was the definition of comfort food. Number 7. Divinity. Divinity. Now there's a name that brings back memories. This fluffy, melt-in-your-mouth candy was like eating a cloud made of sugar. And I remember it being a staple around the holidays. My family always had a tin of it on the kitchen counter, just waiting to be nibbled on. The tricky part was getting the weather just right when making it. You needed a dry day for Divinity to set up properly, or else it would turn into a sticky mess. I can't tell you how many times my mom would grumble about the humidity ruining a batch, but when it turned out perfect, oh, it was divine. Number 8. Harvey Wallbanger cake. Okay, if you've never heard of this one, you're in for a treat. The Harvey Wallbanger cake was based on the popular cocktail, made with vodka, Galliano liqueur, and orange juice. The cake itself was light and citrusy with that boozy kick from the liqueur. I remember this cake being served at grown-up parties my parents would throw. As a kid, I was fascinated by the idea of putting alcohol in a cake. Of course, I didn't get to try it back then, but years later, when I made it myself, I totally understood the appeal. It was a perfect balance of sweetness and tang. Number 9. Baked Alaska. Ah, Baked Alaska. The dessert that could turn any dinner into a special occasion. If you've never had it, you missed out on a true showstopper. Layers of cake and ice cream all covered in fluffy meringue, then baked just enough to get those beautiful golden peaks. The meringue kept the ice cream perfectly cold inside, while the outside was warm and toasty. My mom actually found the recipe for Baked Alaska in one of her Betty Crocker subscription boxes, and from the moment she tried it, it became her go-to for special occasions. I remember watching her work her magic in the kitchen, carefully assembling the cake and ice cream layers and whipping up the meringue. No one else in our neighborhood was making Baked Alaska, so we always felt like we were eating something fancy. Even though we didn't flame it at the table like in restaurants, it still felt like a big deal when she pulled it out of the oven, all golden and gorgeous. That contrast between the warm meringue and the cold ice cream was like nothing else. If there's a dessert that deserves a comeback, it's definitely Baked Alaska. Number 10. Wacky cake. The Wacky cake was a true 1970s classic, and it was as simple as it was delicious. It didn't use eggs or butter, which made it a little wacky, but that didn't stop it from being moist and full of chocolatey goodness. We'd make this cake in a pinch when we didn't have all the ingredients for a traditional cake. I loved watching my mom pour vinegar and oil into the batter. It was always fun to see how something so odd could turn into such a tasty treat. One time, my dad decided to try his hand at making wacky cake while my mom was out. Now, my dad wasn't much of a baker, but he thought, how hard could it be? He mixed everything up, but instead of using baking soda, he grabbed baking powder. The result? The cake puffed up like a balloon and then deflated, leaving the end result looking weird. When my mom came home, the cake looked like it had been through a science experiment. We tried it, but it was more rubbery than cake-like. Dad just shrugged and said, "Well, it is wacky." From then on, wacky cake became my mom's job again. But that day still gets a laugh every time we bake it. Number 11. Oatmeal lace cookies. Oatmeal lace cookies were thin, crispy, and had this amazing buttery flavor that was absolutely addictive. They were so delicate and almost see-through, with little bits of caramelized sugar around the edges that gave each bite the perfect crunch. If you've never had one, imagine a cookie that's somehow both rich and light at the same time. Crisp on the edges, slightly chewy in the middle, and impossible to eat just one. My mom used to pack these in my lunchbox, and I remember feeling so fancy when I'd open it up and see those perfectly golden cookies, like a little secret treasure hidden among my peanut butter sandwich and apple slices. I always knew they were something special, mostly because none of my friends had them in their lunches. They'd stare in envy as I'd pull out my shiny cookie and take a slow, dramatic bite. Sometimes I'd even trade one for an extra juice box or an extra pack of fruit snacks. Those cookies had some serious lunchroom currency. What's funny is how easy they were to make. It felt like my mom had spent hours in the kitchen, but in reality, it was just a simple mix of ingredients, spread thin on a baking sheet, and voila, fancy cookies that looked like they came from a high-end bakery. Definitely a forgotten treasure, and one I wish would make a comeback in kitchens everywhere. Number 12. Strawberry pretzel salad. Now this one's a bit of a wild card. Was it a dessert or salad? Who knows? But it was delicious. The crunchy, salty pretzel crust, the sweet and creamy middle layer, and the strawberry jello on top. This was a true 1970s creation. I first tried this at a family reunion, and I was hooked. The combination of flavors and textures was something I'd never had before. It was sweet, salty, creamy, and fruity, all in one bite. I'm telling you, this dish needs to make a comeback at every summer cookout. Number 13. Peach upside-down cake. Peach upside-down cake was a southern twist on the classic pineapple version. But for us, peaches were always the star. We lived near a peach orchard, so every summer, instead of using canned pineapple, we'd grab fresh peaches right from the trees. There was something special about those peaches caramelizing in brown sugar and butter at the bottom of the pan, creating that beautiful sticky topping when you flip the cake over. My cousin used to bake this every summer when the orchard was overflowing with fruit. We'd sit on the porch with big slices of cake, the peach juice running down our fingers, talking about everything and nothing. It's one of those desserts that instantly brings back memories of long, lazy summer days and the sweet smell of ripe peaches in the air. Honestly, I still can't look at a peach without thinking of those afternoons. Number 14. Frozen chocolate banana bars. Okay, confession time. I've never been a fan of frozen chocolate banana bars. I know. They were the perfect hot weather treat for a lot of people, but they just never did it for me. Bananas and chocolate? Not my thing. But that didn't stop my siblings from making them every summer. On the hottest days, they'd dip bananas in melted chocolate, roll them in nuts or sprinkles, and then impatiently wait for them to freeze. I'd watch them get all excited, rushing to the freezer as soon as they were ready, and running outside to enjoy their frozen treats before they melted. Meanwhile, I'd be sitting there shaking my head, wondering how they could possibly enjoy that combination. But hey, to each their own, right? Number 15. Pineapple fluff. Pineapple fluff was one of those no-bake desserts that was light, airy, and a little bit tropical. It was made with crushed pineapple, whipped cream, marshmallows, and sometimes pistachio pudding mix, if you wanted to get fancy. My family would make these for summer barbecues, and it was always a hit. It was cool, creamy, and the perfect dessert for hot days. I'd eat it by the bowlful while sitting in the backyard, feeling like I was on a mini tropical vacation. And there you have it, 15 forgotten 1970s desserts we wish would return. So what do you think? Have you tried any of these desserts before? Or maybe you have your own favorite 70s treat that didn't make the list. I'd love to hear about it in the comments. Thanks for watching.